All right, everybody, I'm Logan Allec. I'm a CPA. It is almost tax season, so I'm going to be creating more educational tax content right here on the Money Done Right YouTube channel. I provide this information absolutely positively for free. Of course, if you'd like to support the channel, I tell you how in the little picture right below my face. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Form 1099 interest. You may have received this form, so I thought I'd go over the basics of it. It's a very basic tax form for the most part, but you know, it's always good to kind of have a little refresher here. So Form 1099 interest, 1099 INT, if you will, is a tax form on which interest payers report the interest that they paid to eligible recipients. And this form is sent not only to interest recipients by the payer, but the payer is also obligated to send the IRS a copy, as well as the recipient's state tax department a copy. Generally, Form 1099 interest is only issued to recipients who were paid at least $10 of interest income during the year, but this threshold drops to zero for recipients for whom the interest payer withheld and paid any foreign taxes on interest, and from whom the payer withheld any federal income tax under backup withholding. So, you know, easy example. You open up a savings account and you deposit money in the savings account, and you know, in January of this year, and the bank, you know, pays you $1 of interest every month. So by the end of the year, you've had $12 of interest, probably a little bit more because of compounding. Therefore, even on only $12 in interest, the bank is required to send you a Form 1099 interest by January 31st of the following year to report this $12 of interest income they paid you. And they would report it right here on line 1 as interest income. By the way, banks are increasingly reporting bank account sign-up bonuses as interest income on the Form 1099 interest. Speaking of sign-up bonuses, in the description below, I have links to various products, apps, whatever, where you can get sign-up bonuses. So how does this form work? What's its purpose? Well, the purpose of the form is to let the IRS and state tax department and interest recipients know how much interest was paid to the recipient during the year. Obviously, there are several boxes here on the form. Box 1 is the most used. This is the box that is used to report most forms of interest, such as that paid by a bank to its customers. Now, of course, not all interest income is taxable. So, for example, often interest paid by municipal bond funds is tax exempt, at least for federal income tax purposes. So tax-exempt interest would be reported in box 8 of the Form 1099 interest. And as with all tax forms, of course, the IRS has specific rules and deadlines for the preparation and filing of Form 1099 interest, right? So if you merely received interest during the year, right, you didn't pay interest during the year, if you merely received interest, right, you don't need to file this form, okay? The person who pays you interest would file this form. You would take the information on this form, right, and input it in your tax return. Speaking of which, I recently put together a review of the TurboTax tax software, and I show you exactly how to input a 1099 interest in TurboTax. You can see that video somewhere on my channel page. All right. Now, let's say you're on the other side. Let's say you paid interest during the year. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to file a Form 1099 interest. For example, if you're an individual, it's unlikely that you need to file Form 1099 interest, right? Even if you paid somebody else interest. Because interest on obligations issued by individuals does not need to be reported on Form 1099 interest. And let me see if I can find that for you in the instructions here. Right, you can see it right here. Interest excluded from reporting. You are not required to file Form 1099 interest for interest on an obligation issued by an individual. So, so assuming like this is your business or something, right? Your business entity, and you paid interest during the year. You must also determine whether a 1099 interest is required to be filed for each recipient you paid interest during the year based on the kind of recipient they are, right? As well as how much interest you paid them. Generally, if an interest recipient is a corporation or a tax-exempt organization, right? Corporation or tax-exempt organization, you don't need to file Form 1099 interest to report interest paid to them. It says you are not required to file Form 1099 interest for payments made to certain payees, including but not limited to a corporation, tax-exempt organization, and then lists some other kinds of exempt recipients there as well. So even if your business paid a corporation $1,000 of interest during the year, you would not need to file a Form 1099 interest to report that interest. Also, if you paid an interest recipient less than $10 worth of interest income during the year, you generally don't need to issue them a Form 1099 interest. So if you paid somebody only $9 of interest during the year, you would not need to file Form 1099 interest to report this interest. But, although there are some other lesser used exceptions, the general rule is that you must file Form 1099 interest for each non-corporate, non-tax exempt person or entity to whom you paid at least $10 of interest during the year. The deadline to issue Form 1099 interest to interest recipients is January 31st of the following year. Okay, I think that's, where can I find that for you? I think it's down here. Here, let's see. No. Why do I? Well, I found it on the IRS website here where it says, when to furnish forms or statements. It says you generally must furnish forms 1098, 1099, blah, 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 by January 31st, right, of the following year. However, the deadline to file 1099 interest with the IRS is the last day of February if paper filing, okay, and March 31st if electronically filing, okay? So the deadline to recipients is the end of January, but the deadline to file with the IRS is the last day of February if filing via paper, and March 31st if electronically filing. State tax departments have their own due dates for when Form 1099 interest must be filed with them. And this little chart here on this page from the IRS probably says that a bit clearer. Form 1099 interest, deadline to recipients January 31st, to the IRS February 28th, little asterisk there. Asterisk says the due date is March 31st to file electronically. Right, so, obviously the IRS and state tax departments use the Form 1099 interest filed with them to ensure that taxpayers correctly report their interest income, right? For example, the IRS receives several Forms 1099 interest indicating, the amount of reportable interest income that somebody has paid during the year, but then if the taxpayer doesn't report, right, that interest income on their tax return, or reports less interest income on their tax return than the IRS got 1099 interest for, the IRS will likely, adjust that taxpayer's return to account for the unreported interest income. Now, there's a similar form, well, not similar, but let's say related form to the Form 1099 interest called the Form 1099 OID. And let me see if I can pull that up for us. So what this is basically when a bond is sold at a discount, the IRS considers that discount a special form of interest called original issue discount, okay, or OID. And OID is amortized over the life of the bond, and a taxpayer's amortization of that discount during the year is a taxpayer's taxable OID for the year. And although OID is considered interest income for tax purposes, income tax purposes, federal income tax purposes, it is not reported on Form 1099 interest. It's reported on Form 1099 OID. So just in summary here, Form 1099 interest is a tax form used to report interest income. Form 1099 interest is prepared by interest payers, entities that pay interest, with copies sent to interest recipients, the IRS, and the recipient state tax departments. And if you receive a Form 1099 interest, you will likely need to report it on your tax return, assuming you have a tax filing requirement. And even if you don't receive a Form 1099 interest for the interest you received during the year, you must still report all interest you received during the year on your tax return. All right, folks, that is my video on the Form 1099 interest. I hope you found it enjoyable and educational. There should be some other videos popping around the screen here that you just might be interested in. I'd love it if you watch them. I'd love it if you use my links in the description below to support the channel. See you in the next video, folks. Bye-bye.